Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to the Myrita Minutes. Today I want to talk about the Chrisleys. Now, if you don't know who I'm talking about, I am talking about Todd and Julie, right? They've been um a staple on the reality shows for some years. A couple of years ago, 28 months exactly, they were forced to turn themselves in because they were found and they were convicted of tax evasion, wire fraud, and bank fraud. Okay. Someone that Todd, his story is that he trusted to do his paperwork, frame them, and of course, the guy that did the deed got immunity from the federal government, I want to say, and threw them under the bus. I think they all were in it together. However, I think when his buddy or the guy that they were doing business with got called on the carpet, his thing was, I'm not going down by myself. If I go down, we all going down. But anywho, it didn't turn out that way. He got immunity and he told supposedly the truth on Julie and Todd. Well, they served both together. Well, they were convicted and they were sentenced to, I want to say Julie was sentenced to 7 years. Todd was sentenced to 12. Okay. Because of Savannah working hard to get her parents out, I guess she pleaded to the now administration, and the president gave them pardons. Well, they're now home. I think they've been home since April or May. And to be honest, I always liked and enjoyed their show. I think Todd is a kiki. I think he is funny and still do. Um, do I think they were guilty? Part of me says, yeah, they weren't on the up and up. Um, They do address what they were convicted of, in this podcast. They have their, I wanna say the Chrisleys 2.0 something podcast. They call it 2.0 because they're back, right? So, they do address what they were convicted of. They only really address the tax evasion part because their thing is, "We paid our taxes." Okay, what about the wire fraud? What about the bank fraud? Now, supposedly, I remembered little details. I don't know it verbatim, but I do remember that it was Julie that got caught up in the wire fraud. Something about some paper she had faxed. She made, not made, but she asked or cons- suggested that Nanny Faye sign these documents. Nanny Faye didn't get in trouble, but it was something that she needed to put in place for them to be able to get something. Anyway, they went to these little small banks, they said, over the years, and borrowed like $30 million. So they had inflated their wealth, but then they would file bankruptcy and things like that. It was just like a whole thing. But anyway, like I said, they got their pardon. They're home after 28 months. Now, Julie had gone back to court and was able to get her sentence reduced. So she was coming home 2026 anyway, and she had already got her mind prepared to be there for the long haul. However, with the persistence of their daughter Savannah, and I think I probably would have did the same thing for my parents. So I don't knock Savannah wanting her parents home. There was a nonviolent crime. Was it wrong? If if this is all true, yes, of course. Um, but did they deserve to get a pardon? Does anybody really deserve a pardon? If you do the crime, you're supposed to do the time. Does anybody really deserve a pardon? Really? Before the last president went out, I guess to protect his son. Again, he's protecting his son. He gave him a pardon as well, remember? So they do it for who they want to do it for. Is there are some people in jail that are in jail for crimes that they did not commit. Mostly black and brown people. But don't see, I mean, not saying that some of them don't get pardons, but most of the times it's people that actually did the crime that get the pardons. People that have a little bit of this get the pardons. So it's unfortunate that what really rules this nation is really the color green. If you happen to be black or brown and you got enough green, you'll be okay. But it is what it is. Anyway, I digress. So Todd and Julie are back home. And when they get released, they've been making their media circuit. Um, I have to say that Julie cleans up well because this is not exactly what she looks like when she doesn't have her dye in her hair, her makeup on. I mean, she's an attractive lady, but this is how she really looks. That's how she looked when she came home. She's not blonde, but she is gray. And I don't know, maybe the gray happened when she was in there for 28 months of worrying herself to death. When is she ever going to be home to see Chloe, Grayson, Chloe being their granddaughter, their biracial granddaughter, and Grayson, their youngest son. Now, I was watching a podcast where their middle child, Chase, I'm sorry. No, I don't know. Is Chase the oldest out of Julie's children? I don't know who's old. I think Chase is the oldest. Anyway, Julie's oldest son, Chase, was on a podcast and he had mentioned that part of the reasons why his parents had probably saw the inside of a jail cell was because of Todd's two oldest children. Now, I do remember um his daughter being on the stand and testifying or whatever, and I'm not sure exactly what her role was, but it wasn't really in Todd's favor. And I don't recall his son being involved, but evidently he was because Chase is saying that he no longer wants to ever speak to them. Yeah, they're his siblings. Yeah, he loves them with the blood of Jesus. I'm paraphrasing. But yes, he said because of God, he was able to forgive them, but he can't forget. And he wishes them well, but he will never, never talk to them. Never talk to them. Okay, so there was a part of the podcast that I wanted to share. Hopefully they don't strike, but I'm going to share a little bit of it. Um, and let you. I love when Todd tells his stories, and he was actually trying to explain, what he did when he was there, because you know how they're all supposed to get a job or whatever. And I think when he said he first got there, he worked in. He was a clerk in the chaplain's office and he explains, how the warden has set that up. So he kind of had a layer of protection, being that he was like a high profile inmate. So let's take a listen.
For the Lord when I first got there because I was a clerk with the chaplain. Mm-hmm. But when Miss Dixon left, when Chaplain Dixon left, and Savannah had started, exposing all the corruption that was going on there under Sherry Salsbury, my warden, it was her way of retaliating against me was to take me out of the chapel because that's where I'd been my whole time.
Right.
And Warden Joseph had always said, who was there when I first went there, he said he and Captain Hawley had made the decision that for safety, which there was nothing going on at my facility, but right. They felt like the BOP folks, what I think that after the whole Epstein thing happened and someone of high profile had died in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons, the Bureau of Prisons started looking at high profile individuals to make sure that they had an extra layer of safety, which again is bizarre because no life is more valuable than the next.
Nah.
But they made the decision to place me in the chapel, which was fine. I mean, because I could watch TV all day. And I was only there for 4 hours. I only had to work for 4 hours, which I never worked. But I watched all the movies, and I handed out movies if people wanted to come in there. You know, like they were not supposed to be able to watch movies during certain times, but I always let them. So
You're horrible.
they took me out of the Warden Salsbury, who, by the way, is no longer going to be a warden. The facility is closing, and I'm now going back to speak. This is the irony of God that we talked about earlier. I am now going back to speak at the RDAP graduation.
So RDAP, for people who don't know.
For people who don't know, RDAP stands for Residential Drug and something program. Which I don't believe in, because I watched that program being weaponized against me in there through Dennis Profit.
Well, it's not that you don't believe in the program. You don't believe in how it's executed.
That's right. Because when you had someone in psychology, Dennis Profit, who is a maniac, this man is an abuser of all sorts of ways. Those men are leaving with post-traumatic stress. And then you had Mandy Ramsey, who was over the program, who literally hated men, and she treated them like garbage. And Savannah exposed so much that she retired because of the investigation that was starting. Dennis Profit is still there and still abusive, still writing fake shots to men. For the you don't know what a fake shot is, it's like when you were in high school and you got an incident report and you had to go to the principal. Exactly that.
I guess I have to tell a funny story about
I
shots.
got several of them. She did not.
I never got a shot. I never got a write up. Never got anything. But let me.
Todd is a kiki. I think he is hilarious. Oh my God, I think he is so funny. Do I believe he got 9? Yes, I do. I believe he got on their nerves. Yet, I do also believe he made friends. He does tell a story about, because, they take questions or whatever, if people wrote in or whatever. And they asked them what they ate when they were in jail. And Todd goes, Chick-fil-A, Burger King. And he was, and I guess he was like, yeah, I became their friends. The COs, they bring that stuff in there. So, COs always bring stuff in for people. They're not supposed to, but he clearly is telling on them. So hopefully he don't disclose who those COs were. But clearly they're going to be locked down now. Don't be bringing no extra food in here for people. He said Chick-fil-A, Burger King. He said he wasn't eating that stuff. That is so funny. Let me see if I can find that story.
I did not work. I did my thing in the chapel until Salsbury decided to move me out as retaliation, thinking that was going to shut me up. Clearly it did not, which is why the place is closed and she ain't got no job. But then they thought, well, I'll degrade him and I'll make him be an orderly in his dorm. Please, I subcontracted that out. And I paid somebody to do that and went right on about my business and kept working out, kept going to the library, kept calling Savannah, reporting stuff. If I saw a staff member abusive to anyone there, I wrote them up. If I saw they were not following policy, I wrote them up.
We had people at our camp that sat at that computer and constantly wrote somebody up. And we talked about them people all the time.
I don't care. I'm glad you did. We had people at our camp,
literally,
like y'all,
you could see them,
that didn't do shit except run and whisper in our ear and say, "Can you help me do something? I don't have enough hair on my ass to do it."
To the administrator.
I didn't do no administrator. My administrator was your daughter, Barbara Wawa Savannah Chrisley. I sent 1,000 emails to Savannah every day. Savannah, let me go ahead and tell you about Hackett in the reentry program, what he said to this person. Let me tell you about Richardson, how she degraded this man in front of the whole RDAP class. Let me tell you about Mandy Ramsey. Let me tell you about Dennis Profit. Let me tell you about this worthless AW who does nothing
I know, but you were telling on the staff, not telling on other inmates.
Well, I would never tell on another inmate because I was an inmate. It was us against them. Now, you had some out there that was snitches.
Yeah.
But everyone knew they were snitches. So you didn't fool with them.
Right.
And sometimes the guys, they would set them up to get them caught, so that therefore they'd know what it was like. But they called it kites. You know, when somebody would put like a BP something in, or an incident report or whatever, and they'd drop it in the box, like they were putting in a BP-8 or something, but it would be a note. This person has a phone, or this person's having Tide Pods smuggled in. Or this person had Burger King yesterday. Things like that. Minding other people's business.
I hear you. I hear you.
But as far as like doing my time with the guys, it wasn't great, but it was. And as much as I love all of you, I don't want to be your roommate again. But you can come have dinner with me. It was nowhere near what you had in your mind.
No. It wasn't like what's on the end.
Now, I don't believe that Todd didn't forge friendships while he was in there. I believe that both of them forged friendships because you had to get along, right? And you had to adapt. So there may be friendships that they acquired. Now, will those friendships happen outside of the jail? Like when these people finally get out, will they take up, him up on his offer, have dinner, lunch, or whatever? I pray that, he don't forget them, and he didn't just use them to get along, just to get by, for the duration. But you got to remember, everybody is not meant to be in your life for eternity. Sometimes people are there for a season, and those people that they met in jail may have just been there for that time being to get them through, to see them through to the other side. So part of me says, okay, yeah, he did forge friendships in there, or she did forge friendships in there. I don't think that they're going to talk to them people ever again. That's my personal opinion. Just my take.
They've had to go to the bottom of the barrel to hire people. But Medina, he was over laundry. Now, folks, you get I got 5 uniforms when I got there. How many did you get?
I don't know. I think I got 3.
Well, I think that's policy is 3. I ended up getting 5.
But literally, I kept just a couple because I didn't like my space to be cluttered. And I wash clothes every day.
Yeah, so. I had 5 uniforms, and so I had a guy that did my laundry there, and with the Tide and all the stuff that I had that someone brought me. And I had that done. Then I had a guy that ironed my stuff for me, and it hung in a different, a little certain area so that everything was always pressed. But Medina, he was so abusive to these men. If the warden got onto him for something, he would come in your dorm and bring the guys that work in laundry with the big carts. And if you had one blanket more than you were supposed to, he stripped your whole bed and took everything. Now, I had 9 blankets. Because first of all, I get cold, so you know that. But I made my bed to where, because I had a new mattress, which is by, folks, I'm sitting here saying I had a new mattress. You need to understand that's a luxury because most men and women don't have that. But I had a new mattress. So then I took 2 blankets and wrapped that mattress and then put my sheet on top of that, then my next sheet, then I put 2 blankets on top. So that took 4 blankets. But then I had to have my other blankets in case I got cold, or I used them as drapes to where I had my privacy to where I could read and be left alone. Well, he would come in and steal all this stuff like it was his.
I know, but you weren't supposed to have it.
Oh my God. We're supposed to not be having food that's 9 years old either. And your point? But, he was just an abusive person, that the way he treated men and how he degraded them. And he would say, I remember Melvin Williams, who, folks, y'all are going to hear a lot about Melvin over the course of Chrisley Confessions 2.0. He is my best friend. He was a veteran law enforcement officer there in New Orleans. You've heard me talk about him. Just a wonderful, kind man. He was my boss in the chapel, which, again, why I didn't have to do anything. Melvin did everything. But I remember Melvin going up there to get his laundry, and Melvin's such a humble man. And Medina looked at the clock and he said, "What time is that?" He said, "You know how to tell time?" And Melvin said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Tell me what time it is on that clock." And he looked and he said, 1:01. He said, "What time's laundry close?" He said, 1 o'clock. He said, "Then get the fuck out of here." And it humiliated Melvin so bad. And I saw and he walked in. I put my shoes on and I walked right back up there, and he was getting ready to lock the door and he goes, "What's up, Chrisley?" I said, "I need to pick up Melvin Williams' laundry." I said, "Since you told him to get the fuck out of here," I said, "I want to make sure that I've got it correct when I write you up." And he just looked at me and he opened the door and he went in, he grabbed the laundry and he said, "Here." He said, "Make sure you put that in your write-up." I said, "I will, and I'll make sure that you instructed me to put it in there." I said, "You know I don't miss anything." And I got his laundry and I went back. That became a running joke at that point because everyone knew that if I saw a staff member being abusive to someone, I was going to call it out. And listen, it made my time harder.
Right.
But if I had to give up, and when I say harder, it was just they messed with me more.
Right.
It was worth it for me to know that I was able to get his laundry because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
To make sure that someone got to go to chow and eat because you said they were a minute late. You know, to write someone up because you took an apple from a 78-year-old man because he had it in his pocket coming out of commissary.
Out of commissary?
I mean, not commissary, but out of the chow hall. You know, the warden, she would stand there and she would shake these older men down because they would bring their fruit back to the dorm and they would eat it at night. She would take it out of their pockets and throw it in the trash can right in front of them. So you're wasting the food.
Yeah, we didn't have that.
That these elder, listen, I would hope and pray that the BOP is not full of Sherry Salsburys.
Yeah.
But this is a woman that, again, you screw up, you move up in the BOP. This is a woman who has had multiple write-ups, infractions in her personnel file, and they kept moving her around to get her out of a facility that she had already screwed up in.
Yeah.
And that's why people, and listen, it's not.
I did notice that did happen where somebody would mess up at one facility, and rather than
Fire
reprimand
them.
or fire them, they just move them to another facility. So what makes you think they're not going to do the same thing or worse at another facility?
Right, and our facility was full. They literally called, and because this was supposed to be Camp Cupcake. I mean, where I was at was through, on the internet, it talks about there's a pool, there's a theater. None of that exists. That's all hype on the internet. That's just a lie. But it was still called Camp Cupcake because it was on a decommissioned military base.
Right.
And so how we lived is how our members of service lived. But I'm sure it was clean when they were there.
Right.
The BOP took over and it went to shit. But it was said at our camp that our camp became the burial ground for people in the BOP that had disciplinary infractions. They sent them there so they could get them out and get them retired.
That's crazy.
So the taxpayers can keep paying their retirement rather than fire these people for sexual assault, for theft, for falsifying federal documents, because that happened when at my facility, our former captain there, Captain Hawley, he was demoted to a position as a counselor because he was forging federal documents on timesheets saying he was working when he was not. That's stealing from the federal government.
Yeah.
We went to jail for falsely being accused and convicted of owing taxes that it's now come out we never owed. But yet people wanted to jump on the bandwagon. Well, you do the crime, you do the time.
No, I said that. I said that because if you did it, yeah, I believe you need to do that. You need to, if you do the crime, do the time. But he only addresses paying the taxes. What about the wire fraud? What about the bank fraud? They never mentioned that. Just saying. Still like Todd, but I'm just saying, let's be clear here. Mm-hmm.
But yet this individual there, Captain Hawley, stole from the taxpayers.
I think they call it overtime fraud too.
Right.
There was a
And they had him dead to right. He had signed the documents. And instead of firing him, he's now in New York at another Bureau of Prisons. But they made him a counselor there and let him keep his job. And then when it was announced that they were closing that facility, he was transferred to New York. Someone who you got for stealing.
right.
But you're going to keep them in the Bureau.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, you know, I get so worked up over it, and I get so passionate about what I'm doing right now, which is working with the new director, you know, and the deputy director with the Bureau of Prisons. Savannah and I continue to expose these things. I continue, you know yourself, my phone goes off all night long from family members or staff members at other facilities reporting things to me. I get up every morning and I turn around and I flip all of that stuff over there, you know, to the Bureau of Prisons, to the director, to the deputy director, to other support staff there and say, this is going on at this location. This is going on at this location. This person, someone put their hands on him. This person's supposed to have had medical care. They're not getting it. You see me doing this.
Right.
And I can say for the first time since I was incarcerated in January 17th of 2023, that I see a change. I see, you know, the director and the deputy director implementing President Trump's First Step Act.
Yes.
And which was not done during the entire administration of the Biden administration. I was there for 28 months of Biden's administration, or 24 months of it. And I can tell you that those case managers did nothing. They did not adhere to the FSA. They did not adhere to the Second Chance Act. Because through their union, they have been programmed that if we get these men and women out of here, we have to reduce the workforce within the Bureau of Prisons. Now, what that means is that every bargaining member of the union pays what's called union dues to be a member.
I don't know about none of that. I'm not going to keep going on about that. Let's see what else is going on.
Yep. So, but again, you're preying on someone.
But I was Norma Ray. I was Sally Fields and Norma Ray. I stood up. I did.
But it really is sad. But, you know, we have so many stories and we have so many stories to share because this could go on. I mean, forever, you know, and we're going to talk about so much more because, listen, we're back leading our lives again. So there's so much
more to talk about regarding me and you and what our plans are, because folks, what you don't for all of you that have kept up with us and have followed us for many years, you now know that we're encroaching upon empty nest syndrome, because now we really only have Chloe.
Yeah.
And so,
and
you know,
for us, one child kind of is empty nest almost.
And, you know, you and I have talked about so many plans that we have that Chloe's just going to have to be drug along.
Right.
And
that's okay.
That's a great thing.
That's okay.
And I will pull a Kourtney Kardashian here. I believe in homeschooling. And so we've got so much stuff going on. Savannah's got so much stuff going on that we want to share with you guys.
Right.
You know, Chase has got stuff going on. Grayson, our baby's got so much going on. He's kind of semi in love right now, and he doesn't want anyone to know it. So I'm not going to tell anyone that he's semi in love.
Please don't.
And
Lord.
So, you know, we've got that going on. We've got the worst teenager in America, Nanny Faye, that is still running the streets and acting like she's had no raising. We're going to talk about relationships, past and present. We're going to talk about some that are in our past that will stay in our past and some that will move forward with us. Sure. We're going to talk about betrayal. We're going to talk about redemption. We're going to talk about so many things that the world needs to hear right now. And we're going to talk about survival.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how you can be better than ever after the worst experience of your life. So there's so many things that we're going to be talking about that we hope that you guys will follow us on this journey with Chrisley Confessions 2.0 that I just can't even list them all. But what I would like to do.
There's one thing I always say, and I always say that everything happens for a reason. Now, based on what he described, and I didn't share everything, But he basically saying was their worst experience of their life, and I believe that to my core that this was the worst experience of their lives. But they described how they kind of had it easy. Imagine the people that don't have the notoriety or don't have the funds or the means to be protected or go to the facility of their choice, because you heard him say this was called cupcake something, meaning that it was supposed to be easier to maneuver around because it's not like hard cold people that unalive you in there. You know what I'm saying? These are like low level crimes, white collar crimes, people that are senior citizens, and just living out their last days, probably, if that. What did he call it? Cupcake something. But anyway, this was hard for him. Yeah, he had 5 uniforms. Other people had 3. He had a brand new mattress. You usually don't get a brand new mattress. He had different sheets and blankets where you probably only get 1 or 2. He had 9 blankets, and used a couple of them as drapes so he could have his privacy. Okay, you made it. You adapted to what you had, but some people don't ever adapt. Some people have it much, much worse in much, much worse conditions, dirtier facilities. COs, you said they think the COs were crabby and probably misconduct there. They're all over in the BOP, Bureau of Prisons. They're all over. And granted, it's jail. I get that. When you go there, you do the crime, you do the time. And they're not supposed to make it like a hotel stay. I get that. But why dehumanize people? Like, it makes more sense to treat it like a military faction for discipline sort of thing. Like, everything be on time. And I get that. I think that was kind of the basis of going to prison, because you're on their time. You don't have no time of your own. You're there to serve time, right? So every morning, everybody's up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or whatever. At this time, you do your chores. You get the breakfast crew goes in the cafeteria and fixes the breakfast, but you got to be there 15 minutes ahead of schedule or half an hour ahead of schedule to prep or whatever, and you have to be on time. Everything is bum 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 clockwork. It should be discipline. It should not, and there's a fine line between discipline and being humiliated and scolded. Now, or don't if you don't live up to what you're supposed to do at a certain time or whatever, then of course there's repercussions. But it should be like that, just repercussions, not dehumanizing you. I don't know what the military does. I've never been in the military, but I know if you're not there at a certain hour or a certain time, if things aren't, on a schedule, then there's repercussions. But not to the point where they dehumanize you and make you feel like your life ain't worth living type thing. And it sounds to me that Todd didn't have it that bad as most. But this was the worst time in his life. And on top of that, you got a pardon. So you didn't even have to serve your whole 12 years or whatever they were going to make you serve for good behavior. I don't know. Was it federal prison? What he had to do the whole time? I don't know. I get confused about how that works. But you did 28 months, you and your wife, and now you're back home, getting ready to forge your life again and make more money because people are going to be there to support. I love the Kiki. I think Todd is hilarious. But I don't know. I got in my feelings when he said this was the hardest time of my life. I'm like, and I'm sure it wouldn't even scratch the surface of other people that are in there. Just saying. Let's continue.
better than ever after the worst experience of your life. So there's so many things that we're going to be talking about that we hope that you guys will follow us on this journey with Chrisley Confessions 2.0 that I just can't even list them all. But what I would like to do is I'd like to go over some questions that we've already received.
Right. We've received so many questions, so we're just going to do a couple today.
Right.
And then every week we'll answer a few more.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to ask you just one.
Okay.
Okay. Was there anything that you enjoyed while in prison?
I enjoyed working out, and I enjoyed the fellowship that I had in the chapel with my friends that came there.
Okay. What did you eat?
I had Chick-fil-A.
Todd.
You ask me what did I eat, and I'm not going to come on here and lie. I had Chick-fil-A. I had Burger King, I had pizza, I had Culver's, which let me just go ahead and tell you, this is not an ad.
Oh my God.
But Culver's is my jam now. I love Culver's. And when I found out, when you made me go with you to Sam's this week.
Yes.
And you said, if you go with me, what'd you say?
We can go to Culver's.
I said, we don't have a Culver's here in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. It's down from the Sam's in Brentwood. And so why did I go?
Yeah.
Because I had Culver's.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had that. I had Olive Garden once, but I didn't like it because.
Okay, so I'm going to answer this. What I ate in prison, which was none of that. None. I had
women's prisons.
One morsel of outside food for 28 months.
Did you not make friends with any of the staff?
Oh my God. No, not that way. No, I didn't.
For those of you that I made friends with.
But I'm actually going to do some filming at home of some things that I cooked while I was in prison, because I think that's kind of cool.
Well, I would have to get my chef, because I had a chef that made my food.
Okay, well, I didn't.
I had quesadillas that he would make with an iron.
Which you're not supposed to have.
With pepperonis and pizza sauce that I had brought in from Walmart.
Yeah, speaking of that, we go to Sam's this week, and he buys this huge bag of pepperonis. I'm like, what are you doing?
And the thing about it is,
I guess, he was afraid he was going to need his pepperonis.
I've not even opened them, but I was going through the... First of all, I don't shop. Everybody knows that, or like that, like food stuff. But I was going down those aisles and I was looking at all that stuff and I was thinking, God, I wish I could just send all of this to my friends.
I know. Because you
they
do
have nothing.
develop this like sense of urgency, or like you want to hoard a little bit, because
I didn't do that because I had like 5 commissaries.
Because you don't know what you're going to get and what you're not going to get. Like you said, commissary, you run out. If it's around inventory time, you're going to go at least a good month and not have anything hardly in there to buy. Mm-hmm. So you do like, oh my gosh, I need to make sure I have this, because you don't want to run out, because it's not like you can run out. I couldn't just like run out to the Walmart or the Target and get what I needed.
I did not go to the Walmart. The Walmart came to moi.
Oh my gosh.
But don't you think, speaking of that, I want to touch on this. Don't you think, because you're not supposed to be, according to her, you're not supposed to be doing all that. But don't you think that if you stocked pepperonis on your commissary, or you stocked cookies, or you stocked the things that people are bringing in, you would stop them from having to bring that stuff in?
Well, you would. But, also because I did work and I know how commissaries are ran, the vendors that they buy from are not just like, it's not like Amazon. So it's not like they always have it. So yeah, we may order a particular chocolate chip cookie and then you may go to reorder it and they don't have it. Because I think a lot of these places, they buy overstocked, that service commissaries.
That's out of date.
Not always, but we did get certain things when we would receive it in, it would already be expired. Mm-hmm. And so we would be like, okay, we have to send this back because it's already expired. It would be real close to the expiration date. And I think it's because, I'm sure they get it at a cheaper price, which is how these companies make their money, by buying it so much cheaper.
But don't you think being in commissary, I guess she's an authority now, being in commissary and being the Bureau of Prisons, the second highest budget outside of defense, you don't think they can't pick up the phone and say, Besso, drop us some stuff?
Well, I just don't think it's that simple. But,
it is that simple.
Okay, but what prison thing did you eat? Quesadillas? That's what you ate? This question that someone asked was about food.
I ate quesadillas all the time. If I did not have my food brought in from the street, I ate quesadillas. That's what I had. That and tuna.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I ate a lot of tuna, and I really didn't eat tuna before I went in. But
I love tuna.
We had quesadillas. We had nachos.
I had nachos. Yep. Aaron made me nachos.
I made a pickle wrap, which was really good.
Yeah, I ain't eating all that.
You don't know because you've never had it.
I had Culver's. Why would I eat a pickle wrap?
Oh my gosh, it was so good. They're so good. I made them before I left for everybody.
You have been prisonized.
I have not, but I guarantee if I made it for you today, you would like it.
Well, let me ask you something.
So refreshing.
When you walked around campus, was your pocket hanging out?
Shut up. You are, shut up.
Because I always wondered if you was a pocket puller.
Do you want me to do this podcast with you or not? You better take that out.
No, do not take that out because that is great. Do not take that because people are going to die over that.
No,
I give you these comedic lines and you don't want to shit on them.
Shut up.
I could have said you're a puller, but I said a pocket puller.
Oh my God.
So what's your next question?
Well, I don't even know. You got me all flustered over that.
Well, either you're a pocket puller or you're not.
Okay, stop. No, we're not even going to answer that.
Okay.
Someone asked what our living arrangement was right now.
I was curious about that.
Our living arrangement now is we came home to Savannah's.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your girlfriend in prison. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I got confused. I was off track. I was talking about pocket pulling, and then you said living conditions. So go ahead. Come on.
It's not funny.
I'm not trying to be funny.
And
you
me
jumped.
is the one always says you're the gay one, not me.
And
they
listen,
never said I was the gay
I'm
one.
good that people thought that my sex life continued when I left.
Listen.
Julie got him on that one. She said, people said you were the gay one, not me. I think Todd is a kiki. Oh my God. I think he is funny. I know people don't think he's funny, but I do. And I look forward to listening to their podcast going forward. I am going to tune in. And it'll be interesting to hear their stories. And I am going to send in questions because I want to know, do you all go back and visit these people? Even though they're in Tennessee and Todd's facility is in Florida, so I guess he wouldn't go back to visit them, but at least keep in contact with them, like write them or whatever they need to, or send them or put stuff on their money on their books or whatever. Because since they know how it is to be, have hard times, then they shouldn't completely evade or cut those people out of their lives. Like put some money on their books every other month or once a month or for 6 months at a time or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I just wanted to share that with you all because I think Todd is hilarious. Oh my God. Anyway. Everybody, please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day. Everyone, be blessed.